Welcome to Small Business Connections TV. I'm here with Shaun Fox from FOXI Group. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So Shaun, you have over 70 different businesses, so it means you're well versed to talk about entrepreneurship in general, pits and falls. Now tell me about how you started having 70 businesses.
Yeah, so we have 21 direct businesses that are mine in majority ownership, and a lot of others that we support and then growing. So my journey is failing as many businesses as possible for the first sort of 15 years
I love that.
of
Yep.
my life. So serial startup is where I exist. The growth for us has been the last 5 years, has been exponential. COVID was phenomenal for us, and I think because we span so many different industries, that we're able to pivot and then pick up different tools to use, which is probably one of the biggest things that we promote to people is if you're failing at something, is it time to change, and what tools have you got left laying around?
So what industries do you cover? Or, I mean, is that like how long have you got?
Yeah. Look, we're in everything. So I'm big on infrastructure. So I own every combination of financial service license in Australia. We authorise other people for funding activities, credit lending. We specialise in helping startups or people raise funds, particularly from the retail market in the world. And then from there, I invest in so many businesses. So we're in mining, agriculture, fintech, blockchain. You name it, we're probably in it.
And obviously blockchain and fintech are on the rise. So tell me a little bit about investment in that particular space, because it's new, but it's not new. It's new as a term in market, but it has been around for quite a period of time. And obviously this conference has focused a lot in that space. So tell me, what are some of the things that you look for in order to be an investor in these businesses?
It's exciting. So I just got back from America doing the Miami Blockchain 2022 event. I'm heading back to the States in 2.5 weeks for the Consensus event. So from an Australian perspective and from somebody that owns financial services licenses and authorising funding activities, now it's combining that technology and those emerging industries into sort of registered, regulated formats. What we're seeing, it's every industry. Every single industry is now affected by blockchain, whether it's smart contracts, we're seeing it on a governmentary level, we're seeing it, the local Murray Pa's pizza joint, and how to utilise these types of technology. So every industry has it. I think the biggest push that we have for people is you need to be aware of your industry and how does blockchain affect it. It's the same as Moore's Law, right? That every 2 years we advance 10 years in technology. Since COVID, which was probably as sad as COVID was, it was one of the most amazing things that ever happened to this planet because we brought the entire world up to the same level of technology that I think in the next 2 years we're going to see what technology would have been in 30. So if you're not aware of that within your business, and because blockchain absolutely affects every industry, this is the thing that you want to get ahead of, and you can become a market leader. You can go from the back of the pack to the front in a very short amount of time.
So I run a couple of media agencies. So tell me, how can blockchain be integrated into that marketing space?
I think the way that, especially in media, it's really exciting, and finding the actual technical parts behind it, you'd have to do some research. But where you look at blockchain as an industry, blockchain cryptocurrency was built on social media, right? That's the tangible parts of some of the largest investment that ever happened on this planet. It was social media. It had nothing to do with cryptocurrency. It was social media that drove it. So, and we own a large media company too, FOXI Media, and we specialise in creating celebrity for business and celebrity for people. And because we've seen the rise of people will invest billions of dollars in some dude that has a coin that he created, right? So that's the social media aspect. So for media companies, it's looking at what these new entrants have done. How were they able to turn around and create hundreds of millions to billions of dollars through social media platforms? And how important is celebrity? And I think celebrity is absolute. So I think that's where blockchain, as much as that's not technology in media, it's actually shown, well, there's a whole new face and a way to actually go about promoting that type of business.
So you talked about failure before. Tell me some of your best failures.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, don't buy a pub, right? Just don't do it.
I have one of those too.
Oh, get out of that, right? Get out of that.
Right,
It's too romantic, right?
Oh, it's horrible.
The romantic notion, what you're doing is you're buying a job. So
Yeah.
it's probably one of my favourite failures. I had quite a few pubs, and I had that romantic notion of a pub. Now the thing with the pub is, or a club, you do really well on a Thursday, you do great on a Friday, you do okay on a Saturday, and you pay wages and rent every other day. Right? So you're not really making any money for 16 hours worth of work. And and this is one of the, like, bringing back to the startup mentality, that we all start feeling really excited, we start getting a little bit of success, and you put foot to the floor and you go as fast as you can right off the cliff. right, as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
And I did that, and we had some wins, and then all of a sudden we were offered a seasonal business up the mountains, and I thought, that's a great idea. I snowboard all the time. This is what a fantastic thing to do. Never do that.
Because did you snowboard at all?
Not that season.
Were you in the kitchen?
No, well, what happened was the season before was amazing. We had the best ski season on record. They left the lifts open 2 weeks longer. So 6 weeks out from the season opening, we had the opportunity to take a pub. So that's a great idea. Let's do it. Throw all our money into it. We got up there, and there was no snow that season, so it doesn't matter how good your Palmer is. No one's coming to the mountain for your Palmer, right?
No. They're not going to dry ski on
not at all
on those mountains.
So what I saw was an amazing experience, and this is one of the things that we teach in my book, like Money the Book, and I teach people about
what's your book?
It's called Money the Book. So I wrote the book on money.
Right. I love that.
I get marketing, right?
Yeah, I love that. Do it.
So and I talk all about my failures, and this particular one was amazing. If the analogy I give is, imagine being on a ship in the middle of the ocean and it's on fire and you're surrounded by water. That's what that experience was like. You're either going to burn to death or drown, right? So, but you're going in one direction. There's no other way. But what I was able to do is I was able to watch that business fail very slowly, and I got to really pay attention. And this is where failure is a success. So I was able to watch what was the emotional damage to my business partners, to my family, to my staff, and I knew a couple of weeks in I was going to lose $150,000 that year. I knew. So I didn't snowboard. I drank. I had a lot of alcohol, so I drank the whole season. But
of your own
alcohol. I had to get rid of it. Yeah. So I was able to watch, and I learnt so much from that failure. And sometimes acceptance is the best you can do. You accept this failure, and you've got to write it out. You're not going to succeed. But what I did is I came down off the mountain. I shut all my other clubs and pubs down. Like 2 weeks, I shut them all down with that. That's it. And 3 months later, I emerged and I opened all these backpackers. I converted the whole thing into beds and backpackers. I went from 16 hours a day of working and maybe making some money to 3 hours a day and hanging out with Swedish backpackers all day. It was
cool.
It was a great
Did
pivot, right?
The wife like that?
It was great. Yeah, it was great. But it's learning those failures. And I think in that startup world and that community is, you keep going at it. And we're seeing now what's amazing in the industry right now is we're seeing so much emergence of plus 40. People over the age of 40 are now watching young people that are getting in and having a go, that they're leaving their industries and they're starting businesses. And these are people who have a lot of failure or seen a lot of failure, and that's the winning ticket. And so you take people over the age of 40 getting this startup world who have experience, regardless of what industry, that's real success. And we're seeing a lot of dynamic people, and take things like blockchain or connectivity of the world or whatever it is that are tools that are around, and really starting to succeed.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we have heard a lot of speakers over this last couple of days at this business forum, and a lot of the data coming out are people starting their own businesses during COVID. They really want to see change, or they want to change completely their industries. And a lot of it has been women doing that.
Yep.
And they're doing that with a view to be able to spend more time with the family and to have more work-life balance. What's your response to that?
We raise funds. So we authorise other people for fundraising activities, but we have raised a lot of funds on our own. So the last 5 years, when we looked at our data about 3 years ago, the majority of investors that we have are women. So our focus has been that. We've gone, okay, well, what's happening there? And what we've found are women are the most successful investors that you can have, because they'll do a lot more research, a lot more diligence, and they'll stay with that investment. And then when we looked at the data and you look at men will look at that shiny object and go, this is great, but then they'll sell out before the real returns, right? So a lot more fickle in that nature. So seeing women now, well, not even now, looking at the data of women in business, and coming into that world and later in life as well, because they're seeing that opportunity. It's a different way that the mindset works. But I think what we're starting to see is men starting to adopt females' mindset and starting to actually venture out in there. We actually see a lot more success of women entering the market than men. I think it's just the data isn't there enough for people to really realise exactly which way that wind has been blowing for a long time, for probably the last 10 years. And
just moving into that sort of gender role, what I've enjoyed coming out of COVID is seeing a lot of dads drop their children off to and from school in times gone by that was just non-existent.
Yeah.
One of my favourite stories was early doors, we were in COVID, and one of my legal friends, I was working with a client, and I rang him and I said to him, hey, listen, is now a good time to talk? And he said, oh, no, I'm sorry, I've got the kids screaming, I'm at the supermarket, blah, blah, blah. And in the past, as a working mother, I used to hang outside my window to pretend that I was still at work to avoid the clients from hearing the kids screaming in the background. So what I have absolutely loved is the authentic nature of how we are now working, and I definitely see that staying. I guess my point is, with women entering into their entrepreneurial environment, I don't think that a lot of people truly understand it whilst they're working from home, how they then manage all of the facets of running a business. And I think that's probably something I would be interested in hearing from you about, because that's been my experience. Has that been yours?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing what's been amazing the last 10 years with a lot more emphasis on sort of, I guess, gender equality, and sort of going both ways as well. And I know from my experience, one of the best things, I used to pick all the kids up from school every day and drop them off every day. That was my job. That was it. I wanted that. And especially that's where you get to spend the quality time with kids, right? And never, ever ask a child what they did at school because they didn't do anything.
Oh, no,
but you ask them what happened at lunch, right? You're going to get a breakdown of all the intricacies.
Yeah.
And I love that as a father.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing now is that movement, right? That gender equality. And I know so many of my friends who want to be stay-at-home dads, or they want to be able to spend more time, and the women want to be out in that workforce. But you're right, and even looking at single parents, single dads, single mums, and being able to juggle that. And I think where it becomes now, and again, one of the blessings from COVID, right, you always got to look at those silver linings, is people are far more accepting of hearing kids and dogs in the background, if sort of stuffing kids in the cupboard, just shut up,
like
but people can see it on Zoom, why you got kids in the cupboard? But I think the world has now become a lot more acceptable of that, and it shows strength and resilience. It's especially when talking, let's talk people in business and people in startups, and we know the things that we're juggling. And we know how hard that can be. When you can also juggle in there kids or elderly parents or anything else as well, it actually now shows strength of character where you don't have to hide the fact and hanging out the windows. I know exactly what you mean. I've had to do it as well. Pretend like I'm in a very corporate environment where it's chaos and shooting behind me. People are a lot more accepting of that now, and they're probably looking more for that ability. And especially as business has changed. Business used to be do the one thing well, and that's acceptable, right? Anything else outside that, and I remember a time when I was called an entrepreneur, which I don't refer to myself as one, because that was a bad time in life. When you were called an entrepreneur, that was a dirty word, right? Do the one thing, Shaun, don't be such an entrepreneur.
Yes, that's one of my beefs is, master of, jack of all trades, master of none, and that sits very heavily in the back of my mind. Just, I've got a few businesses too. I'm like, well, am I focusing on the pub? Obviously, it's a failure.
We'll get you out of there. Anybody watching, buy pub.
The brewery, the agencies. So I do that. That really resonates heavily on me. And
it used to be seen as such a negative thing. Whereas now, in this culture of business, in this culture of entrepreneurship, in this world where you can have so many different businesses, that's seen as a skill set. So if you're able to, and bringing it back to sort of juggle the kids and timing and run a business, that's now a skill set that's seen, whereas it used to be, right, how do I find a COO? How do I find a CTO? But now you have to find the entrepreneurial juggler. How do I find that? That's a role in itself that's not been defined in the corporate entities yet, because you have to have that person who can do it. All the successful businesses have now integrated into other industries, other verticals. We're at 70, 21 direct companies, we've 70 that we're involved in. And our success through COVID was the fact that I was in every industry, that I could turn off certain bits and turn up others. And we grew like 4,000% through that period, because we spanned a lot of different industries. And that's my advice to people is make sure you control your verticals. And if your business spends money on a particular type of resource, why don't you own that business too, or use your leverage to then own a piece of that business? Also.
I'm a big believer in that. I love that. I love everything you say. So you talked a little bit about advice for what advice would you give to those people who are sitting there, they've got an idea and they want to start something but they're not sure how?
Oh, the best one is, right, a little bit every day. Like, get out there. If you have, and I guess coming from me, like my experience, I'd never finished high school. I don't have any real degrees. I now work with prime ministers and presidents of countries and raising funds, right? If you want to be in an industry, right, because everybody's talking about sort of blockchain and startups and entrepreneurship and all these things, and there's a lot of noise, and you're like, where do I start? Here's the secret, right? Go find the exact industry that you want to be in and the people that are already doing it. Look at what they're doing and reverse engineer it. There's nothing worse, trust me, there is nothing worse than being a market leader. I hate it. I hate being the first guy in there because I have to do all the work. I would much rather do R&D, which is rip off and duplicate.
Research and
Yeah.
development is
Rip
not
off
my
and
thing.
duplicate wherever you
I
can.
love that.
And I
love
see a
that.
lot of my stuff.
Yeah.
I see a lot of things that I put out there that have then been ripped off by other people. And I love that. Like, rip
Yeah.
off my stuff as much as you
Yeah,
can, because it shows that I'm doing well.
That's it.
Right?
It's the best form of flattery, isn't it? You know?
Absolutely. And so that's what you want to do. You want to go and find, reverse engineer it so that you can make it easier. And the biggest thing that we push, right, is grow your village. How many people do you know in your network, in your village, that can contribute to your dream? But make sure that you're asking people what their dream is. What's their dream and how do I help you get there? Even with our staff, our saying in my company is create your own crown. It doesn't matter if you start in admin, if you start in legal, wherever you want. If you want to be a project manager in Laos running a gold refinery, you let me know and I'm going to get you there, right?
Yeah,
I want to contribute
take
to
you
your dream.
to Laos.
100%. I want to contribute to your dream
yeah.
because you guys are helping me contribute to mine.
Oh, I love that. Well, you have been so inspiring, Shaun.
Thank
you so much for joining us here on Small Business Connections TV. Now, if people want to buy your book or they want to connect with you further, how can they do that?
Probably go through ShaunFox.net or FOXI.global, I believe, as well. But if you just Google me, as weird as that sounds, you'll find
Love
me.
it. FOXI with an I.
FOXI with an I.
FOXI with an I. Thank you again, and all
Pleasure.
the best for your future endeavours.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.